that son of a bitch. Sorry. So I'm gonna spiral out. So this morning I woke up and I went and smoked a cigarette, and this fucking raccoon like was tearing through my trash and looked at me and was like, "Fuck you," and put his fist up and tried to fight me. Right?
Once bitten, twice betrayed. Another pin drops from a grenade. Oh, wow, she fall. Hold tight, there are these great whites patrolling the waters in the dead of night.
Welcome to the Marinade, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. Each episode, we welcome musicians, actors, comedians, authors, visual artists, filmmakers, anyone who creates art to talk about how and why we make stuff. This is episode 160, and our guest for the second time is Sammy Kay. Sammy is a songwriter from New Jersey who now makes his home in Cincinnati, Kentucky. He is a dear, sweet soul who has lived a fascinating life. We've gotten to know each other over the last year and some change, and I'm so grateful for the connection we've formed. Much to the benefit of his fans like myself, Sammy is always working, and you will hear about those projects during our chat, most notably the debut EP from his band The Kilograms with J Duckworth, Joe Gittleman, and Michael McDermott is now available wherever you consume music. This is essentially me and Sammy shooting the shit, and I really hope y'all enjoyed as much as we did. It was so fun. I don't get to do these in the morning very often, and Sammy and I caught up like mid-morning, which is kind of when I feel like, I don't know, at my best and happiest, and I think it comes through in the conversation for both of us. Everyone, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to bring you a conversation with Sammy Kay.
Doctor,
Hey, buddy.
what up?
Chilling, man. What's up with you?
Nothing, just waking up. Been,
Nice.
I'm actually stoked. I got like a weird week off
Oh, nice.
of like, yeah, I'm not stoked, but I'm stoked. J Duckworth's partner got COVID
Oh, no.
and the studio's in their living room. So like, I'm not going over there to work.
Okay. Yeah.
So I
Bear
have
with
like
me.
I have a
Sorry.
weird little week of like, okay, cool. Like, let me get caught up on some house stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I got a little window to write and, go to the art museum when I would be in the studio.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's dive into all of that, dude. First of all, just how you doing?
Good. Tired, man. Just been running, but it's been kind of nonstop. Everything's been like 11th hour. Um,
Yeah, I see that. I mean, it seems like you've got so many plates spinning, and I'm so stoked for you, man, because it all sounds so good and looks so good.
yeah.
Um, it was so fun to watch I want you to tell folks about the Kilograms project, but it was so fun to watch like all the stories as the EP was selling out like that day, and just like the excitement in your
Boom, boom.
voice.
Yeah.
Just and it's just like
Yeah.
milestone after milestone, and like I rushed home to get my copy, and like it was just super fun, to see the
Yeah.
whole process.
Yeah. It was really cool. I hadn't, it was a small pressing. It was only like 200 copies. And we thought, well, we didn't know if people were going to dig it or buy it or, you know, but they did. So I'm not mad about it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
people seem
Well,
to like it. They're listening to it. Like, we're cruising in the studio. Just, you know, it's a cool thing. We've never been in the same room. Kind of like the 1960 record that's sitting. But it's just wild that we're able to create these cohesive songs and like that purposefully weave and intertwine versus like
mm,
the folk stuff. Like I'll send it off to John and John will just do the soundscapes, John
mhm,
Calvin.
mm.
So it's cool to hear like a little nuance in a guitar part, and then hear McDermott like hear that, accent it, and then throw something else there that like, all right, cool. Now when I'm going back to do the lead guitar, the organ, or the piano, it like that's there, and then Joe hits it, and it's just like it's kind of really cool. The as I would love to be in the same room making a record, but because this is the kind of band that you could do that, and it would be really fun.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad about the creative process with this right now, not one bit.
Man, that's
Um,
awesome.
and
Um,
I'm in a fucking band with McDermott and fucking Joe Gittleman. Like, it's a fucking masterclass, man. Like,
yeah. Well, a lot of folks listening may not know who we're talking about when we talk about those two. So can you kind of introduce them?
all right. So the kilograms is myself, J Duckworth, who has been engineering and producing all of my stuff for the last couple years, and a friend of 20 years now. Joe Gittleman, who was in the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and Avoid One Thing, uh, and he wrote a lot for them. And McDermott, I first got introduced to McDermott when he was playing drums for the Bouncing Souls. He's currently with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And back in the day, he was he was a staple in the New York City ska scene. So it's kind of this like bonkers, like the Souls changed my life when I was about 10 years old. And like one of my earliest childhood memories is singing along to the Ballstones in my dad's Jeep in '95. It's really, it's just fucking wild just to be able to create with these folks and be, you know, in a fucking band,
Yeah. Well, it speaks to the quality of your work too, that these folks who are such heavyweights um, respect you enough that they want to work with you and make this project that, I mean, it's your vocals for the most part, right? I mean,
Yeah. On the first EP, I think I'm primary. It's two back and forth and two of mine. And then the full length's pretty split. I think right now I got four, Joe's got four, and then we got a couple, or I don't even know what the full length's going to be. These sessions, there's like maybe 10 or 11 done, and it's pretty even where it's like a couple of them are Joe, a couple of them are me, a couple of them are both of us. We've been trying to push Jay. Jay wrote a really cool song. It's like, I don't want to sing it, but it's good and it's great. But we're trying to get Jay to take lead on one. And he's like, man, I fucking hate it when like a band plays and the bass player takes lead on one song. Don't make sense. Nah, man, this is your song. This is your story.
well, it sounds also like I'm glad to hear that. That's really cool because every step of this, and I've gotten to follow a little bit of it from just you sending me snippets and us having conversations here and there. And you alluded to this earlier. It is such a collaborative process. It's not primary songwriter, everybody else kind of gathers around, right? It's this really beautiful synergy that y'all have.
Yeah. And it some of it is primary songwriter, but the build is together, right? So some stuff like on the EP Can't Be Beat, I think I sent Joe 10 or 12 versions of that,
Yeah.
trying to get that arrangement right, trying to get the feel right, the groove, all right, where do we go in this Billy Bragg palm meet thing? Where do we go in this funky reggae thing? Where do we go in this rock and roll thing? Do we have a bridge, no bridge, double chorus, half chorus, double chorus? Like, so there's definitely like this massive collaborative. And then there's like days where it's just like Joe's like, yo, I got this song. We're like, fuck yeah, it's perfect. Goes to Durham, goes back to Joe, and then comes to me and Jay. And me and Jay, um, it's wild. I feel like the last time I talked about sending songs off to John Calvin and John just doing his thing, like it's kind of cool because it's me and Jay doing that here.
So cool.
Like we're writing the riffs and figuring out the parts, the what the filler is, what the ambience is, what the lead is, and it's cool too, because we're not, I've always kind of outsourced and let like John Calvin or Todd Farrell or whoever kind of like shred. Alex Bromell did a record, Pat Kelly did a record with me, Curtis Ayers. Um, it's cool because like I'm also like me and Jay are like we're playing lead guitar, like we're doing the riffs, like we're not outsourcing this. Like I'm playing piano and organ for the most part. We've outsourced one part to a buddy of ours, this kid Junior Esteban Flores, but and that's because I just didn't know like, and now I can play it, you know. So it's
Yeah.
been cool. I've been taking like guitar lessons in the middle of the night, like learning the Freebird solo, like oh, this is that lick. Okay, cool. I can use this kind of style lick now. I know where the fingers go for that, and the bend, and the slide, and this and that. It's cool. I'm like actually like yesterday I was working on a song, and again, this is the 13th arrangement of it.
Uh-huh.
I'm just it's not right. It's not right. And I think it's finally right, but it's like I wrote a fucking key change into a second key change. Like what the fuck? You know? It's like half chorus key change into full chorus into key change into the tag, and it goes, you know, step step step, and it's like I didn't know how to do this 3 weeks ago.
Oh, that's such
Like,
an exciting place to be.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's really the um, the fight, right? Fighting a piano part or an organ part or a guitar part, um, fighting a vibe. Even like we're just gonna use the word vibe, right? It's a vibe,
Mhm.
right? The feel. Um, Man, it's a good battle to be fighting. Because
That's so
when you're like,
great.
fuck yeah, like hell yeah, brother, you know?
That breakthrough, I'm obviously at an incredibly different stage in my musical journey than you are, but I've, for years has taken songwriting as a serious hobby, and I haven't been able, I haven't been able to sit down and write lately, just because my head's been scrambled, right? And I just like
Yeah.
haven't sat down to do it. And I had a breakthrough watching BJ Barham on Friday.
I was
Um,
about to say on Twitter, you were like, I just wrote 4 songs in my head. Like,
yeah,
and I was like,
yeah,
fuck yeah, let's go, you know?
yeah. I think it's just one now that I look at it again. But in the moment, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, there's so much just because, and there was something about, I was really locked into what he was doing. I was really thinking about his phrasing, paying attention to the emotion, and then I had this like really beautiful experience the night before with someone that I recently connected with, and I was like, this has to go in this notebook, right? And so it's not and it's not like anything I've ever written. It's much more like, I don't know if it's a talking blues song exactly, but it's just like it's
Yeah.
not what I usually would write, and that spot to be in where like that went off, and then the next couple of days, dude, just all kinds of bits and pieces that are gonna go
Yeah.
somewhere. Really exciting place to be though when you have those moments, and it sounds like
Yeah.
the big thing that I'm getting from you is like you've just been doing so much work, man. It's just like it seems like you've been
Yeah.
constantly working.
We're doing like at least um last week, I think I did like about 25 hours in the studio plus writing and the business side of things. And we launched the repress of the record, the second pressing. Um, yeah, it's wild. I'm like a homebody. I stopped working.
Hmm.
Um, my girlfriend's going through med school, and she's got a 10-year-old, and like right as she was about to enroll to do her last like her round, she's like, "Do you want to like stay home and like take Nora to school and take the kiddo to school and you know pick him up and make dinner and you know she's got a little pity." Like, yeah, I'm not opposed to that. Um, my arm's still a little fucked up and waiting on a surgery, and I feel like I'm forever gonna be waiting on the surgery. But at the time, I was supposed to go under in late January. Um, So it's like, yeah, like that's not a bad move. Like at the time, it was like 4 weeks, and I don't, just having this like, and none of this could be happening if I was working, or I mean, it would be happening, just not at this pace.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Having the days with the kiddo at school and Liz in school is uh we'll call it a blessing, you know.
Yeah. Sounds like it. That's awesome. I'm
You
so
know,
happy for you. Yes.
yeah, there's not really any idle time. Like I was saying before we started, Jay's partner got COVID. So like I have a week off from the studio. That's like, okay, cool. I can do writing, but I also need to do accounting, and I should probably catch up on the dishes and laundry. But we're also gonna cook a killer meal tomorrow because I don't have to be at the studio, like
Yeah.
um, I was talking to Liz. I was like, "You want to do grocery shopping today? You want me to go do it after talking to you?" Which is no, no, no. We'll go later today together. We'll get everything done so that tomorrow we can go to the fucking art museum and walk around and sit in the park and take a minute. I'm like, all in, fucking
Yeah.
10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah.
You know?
Domestic Sammy. I love it. Like it,
Yeah,
it's so fun and beautiful and interesting to me.
it's weird, man. I'm a workaholic, so like not clocking in for 18 hours a day in some shitty dive bars is definitely a change. You know?
But like a healthy change, isn't it? Like, isn't it
Yeah,
a better space to be in?
yeah, absolutely. There's definitely like for me, there's more room to create. There's more room to um, um, I want to use the word be present, but I've been so jammed with work that I haven't been 100% present.
Mm-hmm.
So jammed with studio and we were chasing a deadline, but that deadline just got moved. So it's like, okay, cool. Like I got some room to breathe, and this week will be nice. And um, that's, man, just the cool thing about Kentucky as a whole for me has been me and Jay have steadily worked now for like the better part of 2 years every Monday in the
Mm.
studio making music, which is just like a fucking dream, man. Be able to
Yeah.
create, do the thing.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of which, tell me about this compilation, this ridiculous
The ridiculous compilation. Um,
Songs Not Bombs Volume 1 with like all the dream guests plus I spy Willie T. Taylor who's been on the Marinade, you, there's somebody else that has been on the show that I noticed, and then everybody else on there is like, yes, please. So
Dude,
what is
let's
going on
just
with this
run
thing?
down this real quick. John Moreland, and I got the um, Jordan sent me the Dropbox, and like, dude, the John Moreland demo it's just him and a guitar, and it's just like, holy shit. Um, Carsey Blanton rules. Lizzie No is a goddamn legend. Desalande is John Miller, right? Thrill Amy, uh, Sam Doors, like Willie T, Leslie Stevens, Taylor Kingman. Like, have you heard that TK record?
No, I haven't.
You should tear into that. And they just made a record, that band, like Taylor Kingman's band. It's
Mhm.
TK and I'm
No
fucking drawing a
nothings.
blank right now.
The No Nothings,
Um,
I think.
yeah, the Know Nothings. They just made a record with what's his name? Craigie.
Oh, really?
It has like the band on that new,
Oh
all those new
shit.
John Craigie songs is TK and the Know Nothings, right?
Oh God, I haven't listened to that. I gotta check that out.
Dude, Desiree Cannon, and Isla June, like the Montvales, like I was gonna save this for the end of the like, what are you inspired by? Like the Montvales
Yeah.
are fucking great. They are the best fucking band in Cincinnati right now playing Americana, probably in the region. Um, they just put out a record that's off the chain with the song called like there's a song called New Year's Day that's just been on repeat where it's talking about the fireworks in the city like a war zone and like their New Year's resolutions and hanging out, listening to fucking records, and it's a beautiful record. Zach Bryson's killer. William Thaney is can you name a bad William Nathaniel track? Like, no, you know.
Yeah.
And I love that there's folks like me and Max Lane and Ben Knight who aren't, you know, necessarily as massive of a heavy hitter as, you know, John or Carsey or Lizzie or John Miller, or, you know, it's a real cool blend. And Jordan Smart, have you seen Jordan Smart yet?
No.
He's this kid from the neighborhood. Uh, this is like a wild neighborhood. Like, I don't know if you like know that.
Uh-uh.
Like Jordan Smart lives like 3 blocks away. Willie T lives here. Like,
I didn't know that.
yeah, there's a grip of these like Northern Kentucky, like Cincinnati. You know, I'm gonna call it suburb, right? Covington, Newport, like Southgate. Like Jeremy Pinnell lives up the block. Arlo McKinley's in the neighborhood. Like, it's a
Holy
wild.
shit.
Yeah, like we all live like within maybe 3 miles of each other.
That is wild.
Um, like Montvales are on the other side of the river in Cincinnati. Jordan Smart won not Western as fuck. What's the other one? Gems on VHS this past year. And he's the one that's been who coordinated all this. And he was out with Tommy Crine all last year. Like, there's a wild fucking thing going on, like in this region, like this part of the Ohio River. And that's just like the, you know, I'm not gonna use the word bigger names, but like the bigger names. And there's so
Yeah.
many, like Ben Knight is killer, and GW Garner is doing some heavy work. Evan McMillan got runner up on that Gems last year. He just finished a record that's, I'm just going to assume, perfect. Yeah, there's some fucking weird shit in the water here.
What do you
in
think?
like,
Okay, what do you think that is? And I think that I romanticize that part of the world just because I'm from relatively that part of the world, right? So
yeah,
I think I romanticize Kentucky, especially to a large extent, and have always felt very much at home and comfortable in Cincinnati. Um,
yeah,
my sister lived there for years. My half sister, I would go visit her and her family and stay for several days. Every time I'm at Great American Ballpark, I feel like I'm in heaven.
yeah.
Just like
It's a good ballpark.
it's a good ballpark. And I'm not just
Uh,
saying that because it's my Reds. Like, it's a good ballpark. And
it's a good ballpark.
I feel like, and then there's all these other, I mean, there's deep musical history, obviously,
Oh,
in Kentucky
absolutely,
as well, right? But what do you
dude.
think it
And
is
even
about?
Cincinnati, like Cincinnati, like King Records, like James Brown, Bootsy Collins. That's all out of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You know, the Isley Brothers, Cincinnati. You know, I mean, I guess they got the records were put. They're not from here, but the records were put out here. Um, I think it kind of stems back to a couple things. One of them is Morella, who owns the Southgate House,
Okay.
which it's the second building now. It's currently in an old church that has 3 rooms. This is kind of a holdout for folk. No different than like the Whitewater Tavern or the Continental Club in Texas. Like, it's one of those fucking places. Like, just how, like, for me, the Asbury Lanes was this mecca of punk. You know, CBGB's. You know, I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that the region of it being Kentucky, but also Cincinnati, right? There's a weird thing where like it's so northern, but also so southern.
Mm-hmm.
Has to do with it. Um, uh, I don't know a lot about the history, but a lot of these folks seem to stem around this band called the Tillers. It's been around for a long time.
Okay.
Uh, and don't quote me on that. Like, in my head, they're all like the common denominator as I've met all these people is like the Tillers.
Okay.
And it's like two brothers and like a childhood friend. and like they're like me in the sense of they're playing folk music, but they have like a Subhumans UK patch on their head. You know, they're like
Yeah,
Krusty's
yeah,
making beautiful. Joe Mascherette
yeah.
plays in that band too, and he goes by Joe's Truck Stop too. I think there's just a weird little mecca here in general with music. Like the punk is off the chain right now. The hardcore scene here is fucking bonkers.
Mm,
Like 400 kids showing up to an all ages garage venue,
that's wild.
like to see local bands, like not even touring bands, local bands,
Yeah.
right? That shit's fucking like this band's like just like Slut Bomb is fucking killer. Um, Bad Man is a new band that's real good. It just there's just it's you know it's I think it's just one of those weird like perfect time, perfect region things right now.
I've
Um,
also I've always had a theory. You mentioned Mecca. Like I've always had a theory that these and I'm not the first person to recognize this, but those towns and regions that are I've always felt this way about Louisville as well. Like those towns and regions that are at crossroads that are not strictly, like you said, southern, not strictly midwestern, not strictly northern. It's like Kansas City feels like that a lot to me when I'm there. Those places that are hubs that aren't especially in the middle of the country. Like I love me a good mid-sized Midwestern town. You know, I love me a Cincinnati. I love me a Kansas City. Those towns that are, I love me a Louisville. Those towns that are kind of at that crossroads where you have people
mm,
who are from all over that seem to converge there. I think there's something to that geographically as well. Like it sparks innovation, it sparks creativity because you have that influx of different influences that come in.
there's a theory that goes back to the dawn of popular music, right? And that has to do with rivers,
Mm.
bodies of water, flowing bodies of water, right? Um, that I like kind of knew about, but I didn't. And then I watched a couple years ago the documentary on uh like Fame Studios in um like it. I watched the Muscle Shoals documentary, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it starts with that guy, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. I'm fucking having a space cadet moment today.
I can picture his face right now, and I can't
Big
think of
old
his name either.
mustache, like his
Yeah,
face is starting to sunk. You
yeah.
know, uh, he talks about running water, and all of these great things happen around running water, right? Whether it's here with the Ohio, which cuts through Louisville into Tennessee, right? The East Coast with Bar Rock, right? Detroit with Lake Rock, like the Lake Effect bands, right? You got the Mississippi runs all the way up, you know, Minneapolis to fucking New Orleans.
Mm,
Like look at all those
mm,
places where things came from, you know, and you have like the Valley thing in California. That's where they all are hanging. You just drove 4 miles over the fucking mountains and you were in Santa Monica,
mm.
Malibu. Like I think the water has a lot to do with it. And a long time ago when I started playing solo and really touring solo, which really isn't a long time ago, 7 years ago. So I was struggling and I talked to Matthew Ryan. I was
Mm.
like, I can't get these fucking people. Like, I can't connect with them. And he's like, yo, man, you're from the beach, right? You're from the ocean, right? That person, that city you're playing at, they're lake people or river
Mm.
people, right? And they understand what you're talking about. You just need to understand that they're river people or lake people. It's just different bodies of water,
Mm.
but it's the same thing of people convening and doing the thing around it.
Yeah.
And once I figured that out, I was like, oh shit, okay, like, and he was like, think about how they sit, like how the water moves, how the people act, a surfer and a river rat are two different things,
Yeah.
but they're, like Spicoli and fucking a fly fisherman, right? Like
Yeah.
Chuck
Yeah. Yeah.
Reagan, like they're both surrounding water
Right.
and they're both stoked to be in it. They're just acting how it works, right? Spicoli is like super stoked and like, hey bud. And like, have you talked to Chuck Reagan on this yet?
Yeah.
I don't know him well. I've gotten to spend a little time with him last year, but like a fly fisherman sits still and waits, right? It's
Uh-huh.
like, and it's subtle movements, right? From afar, it's subtle movements, they're whipping all over the place, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, look at the, like, Chuck's on the Yuba, right? California, and then look at fucking Spicoli surfing, like that's
Yeah.
two different personalities around the water, right? You just got to kind of hone in on where you're at and what the water is like. And the same thing with music too, like it's the same, you know, the river in New Orleans by Congo Square, right? Which is essentially where the birth of music, modern music came from. That's only a couple blocks from the fucking river, my friend,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you just let that cruise up and see where it takes you,
Man.
all the way up to the, Minneapolis where
Yeah.
fucking the replacements are hanging out,
Yeah. Yeah.
that shit's no different than the blues,
Yeah. Oh, it makes so much
um,
sense. Rick Hall, I think is his name.
Rick Hall is his name.
I tried to look it up real quick and I couldn't find it, and then my brain did it for me.
Yeah.
Sorry for everybody who was yelling at their computer box when we couldn't think of it. Um, dude, that's all beautiful. Yeah, I had Chuck. Chuck was a dream guest, and I had him on the
Chuck is just a
show.
dream.
He is a dream. He is a dream. I had him on the show. It's interesting. Like, I want to go back and have all those guys, Chuck. Um, I've had Austin Lucas on since the first time I interviewed him, but I had Chuck, Sadler, Vaden, and Austin Lucas. I taped with in the same weekend, like within hours of each other, and it was quite the experience. But I look back and I cringe at some of the questions that I asked and some of the directions I took the conversation. So I'd really love, I'm sure it's good, right? It's just me over analyzing. I'd love to have all three of those guys, especially Sadler and Chuck, since I haven't revisited with them. Love to have those guys back on the show.
Yeah.
Because honestly, dude, I was a little like, this was early on in the Marinade. I wasn't intimidated by Chuck, but I was a little off my game because I just had spent so much time with his music, and he's just like this larger than life, character in my mind.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, that was when we first played with Chuck, which was only last year. Uh, the same thing. It's like you were this larger than life, like your body of work is just like
Yeah.
it, you know. So I think we talked about this last time. The whole point in me writing songs is to make sure somebody finds them in their time of need,
Mm.
whether it's good or bad, happy, sad, you lost your father, you got dumped, you just won the fucking lottery, right? Whatever victory, failure, success, whatever life event, like I want to make sure that I have something that if you find it, it will connect with you in the moment. And like somebody like Chuck, man, like 30 years of Hot Water, 15 years of solo, and that catalog, like there's a song for every moment in your life,
Yeah.
you know. And for folks, myself included, like I have trusty chords tattooed on my knuckles, man. Like I fucking hate this place, but I love this chorus.
Yeah.
I needed to hear that song,
Yeah.
which I think probably makes that larger than life persona for all those folks, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that yeah, I think you just said it beautifully, but yeah, music in general, like as you said, I mean, records hit me at different times, and one of the things about the Marinade is it seems like, my inbox is full of really cool stuff and that people are releasing. So a lot of times that record hits me, especially right now, dude. It feels like every record hits me right now, but
Yeah.
it's just like I need all of it, and it is incredibly helpful when those records hit, like the Replacements. Like,
Yeah,
I
you just fell in love with the
I
Replacements. That's
just did.
huge.
It's so fun, right? And they're so good. And
Yeah.
it just took that one moment with that record, and I just wasn't ready for it until 2 months ago or whatever that was.
Yeah. And now the world is a better place for you.
Right. Right.
Uh, but,
All right, let's the Zoom box
oh,
is gonna
so
kick us off. Yeah, go
back,
ahead.
yeah. I was going to say, we got to go back to the comp because
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just
yeah,
started
yeah,
talking about
yeah,
everything
yeah.
else
Okay,
and not
okay,
the
yeah,
comp.
yeah. Okay, yeah,
What time, what's the kill switch time on this?
It's 6 more minutes. We can start another one though if you've got time.
Yeah,
I
cool.
got I got
Yeah.
time.
You know me, I have plenty of time. Uh,
Cool.
but, yeah, so Jordan hit me up and wanted to, it's like, do you want to do this? I was like, yes. Like, how can I help? And I linked him with a couple folks, and we got coffee, and we, brainstormed like, what can we do to raise more money? And he had merch in mind, and he's been busting his ass for like a month and locked it in, and you know um, what he's doing with song is, and I think when he told me about it, I think my response was, you are a disciple of Woody Guthrie right now, my friend. You are doing the thing, right? Taking song and our art and uh, making it for the right moves, right? You know, for the greater good of humankind. Um, and doing good's a good thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, because I don't know if we mentioned this earlier because we did get on we went down a bunch of rivers, but the proceeds go to what specifically?
It's the Palestine Children's Relief Fund,
Cool.
um, which is crucial. And I'm gonna fucking sound like a goddamn politician. Um, whatever side you stand on this, there's still fucking kids being killed
Yeah.
daily. There's hospitals being bombed, or cities being bombed, or you know, there's still fucking people dying. So Joe Strummer, right? You know, uh, without people, you're nothing.
Mm.
And one of those kids very well could grow the fuck up and change the world. So let's try and get some funds their way. Let's try and get some loot their way, and get them in some form of safe place. Get them fed. Get them housed.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that record gonna be pressed to vinyl or gonna be physical copies at all?
um, don't quote me. There was talks about it.
Okay.
I know there's going to be a volume 2.
Okay.
So we're, that I think that's next week's plan is all right. What do we have for 2? I haven't had coffee with Jordan in a week and a half, so I'm not too sure. But we're gonna start running. I got to get in shape for punk rock. We go to the same gym. He goes. I just pay for a membership. Um, but yeah, we're gonna I gotta actually text him and grab some coffee with him this week to get game plans. But um, I know there's a volume 2 in the works for whatever the next Bandcamp Friday is.
Mm.
Um, and you know, hopefully it'd be cool to put this on vinyl. You know, it's a hefty burden to press vinyl, fiscal burden that like it's, you know,
Yeah.
even if we did 500 copies, it's like $3,400 or something like that. Like
Man, I
a
was
working
talking.
songwriter, like it's that's a fucking,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's a
it's a
lot.
it's a burden. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I just talking with somebody last night who's a music enthusiast and has her own wonderful podcast. Um and she like we went to dinner and I drove, and if you get in my car, there's just CDs spilling out everywhere, right? There's just like
I get
CDs everywhere, right? And she thought that was endearing or like quaint or whatever. And then we started talking about it, and I became an evangelist. I was like talking about the cost of them and how good they sound and how you still get the physical copy and how portable they are and
yeah.
everything. Like I just want to scream from the mountaintops that what a difference that could make for especially independent musicians if people would just like get back into it.
Yeah. You know, definitely the cost is more affordable. They're like less than $2 a pop to make like a digipack or two and a quarter. Um, the problem with that is that cars don't have CD players anymore.
Yeah,
You have to pay to get a CD player put in your car,
it's wild.
which is wild.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it used to be you had to pay like $1,000 to get a line in jack and a phone charger put in your car.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and now it's like the same price for a CD player.
Yeah.
It's just that's the issue.
It was one of the things that drew me to this car. It's a 2015, but it has a much older, and we're back, professional as ever.
Story of my life.
I hope it sounds okay. I haven't like I didn't want to interrupt the flow of this, but I haven't been able to get my decent mic hooked up, so hopefully I don't sound like
Yeah,
shit on your end.
yeah, no, you sound good on mine. I put on them good headphones, them
Uh-oh.
Dr. Dre Beats, baby.
Only the finest for the marinade. Thank you, sir, for that effort. It is
The
funny
Defiant
how
ones.
it's so funny how often like people who work in recording all the time, like you do sound great right now. But how often people who work in recording are just like on the scratchiest computer mic when they show up to the marinade. And it's a weird thing. I guess I could probably ask artists and their publicists like, hey, can you make sure that you got a USB mic or something, or at least some decent headphones? um but it is funny to me sometimes how like I'll interview people who I know work with audio all the time, and it's like I can't fucking hear a word they're saying. I gotta
Oh,
ask them to
I'm
do all these things.
I'm the worst. I am the fucking worst. I like, but I also don't know. I like Jay recently brought up that he wants to show me how to record because on Tuesdays he has to go clock in for 3 hours at his job, at his day job.
Mhm.
And he's like, I feel like I could show you how I can set up the tracks and you can do all your stuff while I'm away, you know? And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I will blow up your house, you know?
Well,
But,
I don't want to lose the thread about CDs real quick because
mm,
again, CD
yeah.
evangelism over here. Um, but what were you saying? You were saying like from an artist perspective, like what that process looks like.
For an artist perspective now, like a hoopty, you know, a cheap car these days is a 2004, 5,
Yeah,
and there's
true.
still CD players, but like it was like 14 cars after 14, it was an option.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, like, if you're getting your first car and you're 18 years old or 17 years old, and your folks buy you a 2016 or 17, which is almost 10 years old, right? Fine starter car. You might not have a CD player.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also like the Spotify bot, I hate the payout. I hate the concept of it, but the Spotify bot it's kind of magical.
Mm.
Uh, I don't love that it exists, but I also love that it exists.
Dude, Tidal, I switched over to Tidal full time for my music listening, and it makes me a morning playlist every morning. It's like 8 or 9 songs. It's like just enough to get my day started.
Yeah,
And I've been pretty deliberate about what I'm liking and what I'm listening to, because my Spotify, which I rarely used, but Pandora, which I used for many, many years,
yeah,
it was just, it's gonna give me Chris Knight over and over again, if I'm not careful.
yeah.
Which is great,
I
but like
I
that's what
I
I,
love Austin Lucas. I love Austin Lucas. I think they have great songs. I don't need to hear Alone in Memphis ever again.
yeah.
It's in the
Yeah.
algorithm, and the second like a Lucero record ends, it plays that. And again, I love Chad Price. Like, I don't need to hear Drag the River, Wichita Skyline ever again.
Ever again.
Like, and that's just like how the algorithm is,
Yeah.
like, and they're on every playlist, and I'm stoked that they're on every playlist.
Yeah.
But anytime I get like an AI, like a Spotify algorithm playlist, it's like, it's the stuff I'm listening to, and then there's always the throw-ins, and you get gems. Like I found out about that band New Junk City through the algorithm, and they were one of my favorite bands now. They put out a song yesterday that's fucking perfect. Again, like they
Nice.
just put out these perfect songs. Um, but and I found like that's how I found Bella White, and I found so many things I listen to on repeat
Yeah.
is from the algorithm, but like it also gets stuck, you know.
Yeah. I did
Um,
that. I think that might have been part of what's happening with me with this kind of reboot is like, I basically had a fresh algorithm, on Tidal. And so I get like Indigo to Susan now. I wouldn't have gotten
yeah,
that. Like that wouldn't have happened on my Spotify. That wouldn't happen on my Pandora. The
yeah,
replacements, I mean, the replacements came across, and that probably would have showed up, and I'd have been like, I don't get this. But it came up, and I got it. And there's just a few bands that like Israel Nash.
yeah,
Just out of nowhere, I was like, oh, I really dig. These are great songs. I'm really feeling this. And I don't know if that would have showed up on my Spotify. So it's been kind of a nice journey. But I'm still
yeah,
seeing these forever and ever.
yeah. I'm the same way. I'm not mad about it. Um, I definitely buy records more than CDs, but yeah, I still, that's even like a very vague still. I buy 10 records a year.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
See, records became one of my coping mechanisms with my breakup.
yeah,
So I had to back off. I bought like
yeah,
I was at the record store every day because it's such a happy place, Like I
yeah,
don't,
same. And I
yeah.
have hundreds and hundreds of records in 3 different storage units across the country, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, I love this record, or this is a limited thing, or like,
Yeah.
this band got robbed.
Mm.
Let me throw
Yeah.
some loot their way. You know,
Yeah.
um, but I couldn't tell you the last time I bought a CD.
Mm. Well,
You know,
the way I do it is lately is especially, I mean, I like flipping through used CDs like at my local record
mm,
store for sure, because you'll find some gems there, you'll find some, or like somebody you want to take a chance on. You're just like, I've been thinking about, somebody's told me about this band forever, and I know, I just want to take a chance on it, or like I'll find, I mean, I have right here. Um, it's Against Me's Searching for a Former Clarity that I just found.
yeah,
And it's like really nice because there was a time when there was a lot of effort put into these packages and everything.
yeah,
booklets in here and everything. Um, and I love this record and I love this band. So,
And the
those,
packaging on that record is really good.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it is.
that's the
Um,
Sire record. That's the first major label record.
um, it's on Fat Wreck.
It's the one right before that. Yeah. Uh, the Thrash Unreal record is the first major.
Yeah, this is the one that has Don't Lose Touch. This is the one that was my introduction
Yeah.
to the band. Um, but
Best band. Best band.
it's so good. It's so good.
Best band.
Um, but the other thing I wanted to say was where I've been buying CDs a lot is because I love going to a show and I love buying merch, right? I got so many
Yeah.
fucking band t-shirts. I don't need any more band t-shirts. Occasionally I will. But for the most part, I'm just like, I don't have any room for all these. And I don't want to get rid of any of them. And records, if I go to a show and I buy a record, now I'm carrying around a record at a show. And
Yeah.
or then trying to get it home, especially if I'm flying somewhere to see somebody. CD fits in your pocket.
It fits in your back pocket. I'm not
Back
I'm not
pocket.
mad about that, you know.
Yeah.
Um
So this has been Buy CDs with Jason Earl and Sammy Kay, the
my
CD
my thing
Evangelism
is
podcast.
my thing is we'll go to the record store. One of the record stores around here has a coffee shop in it.
uh,
And we'll go to the 99-cent bin or the $2 bin or whatever, the under $5 bins, and just pull the ridiculous cover. Like we
mm.
found one the other day that has just this ridiculous cover, and the guy's name was like Waylon Owens Cash, right? And he was just some random country singer that's they were like, we're gonna call you Waylon Owens Cash. It was something ridiculous like that. Waylon Haggard, I think it was. And the cover was ridiculous, and the text layout was ridiculous on the back, and it looked like a fucking 1960s country record. And we're like, fuck it, it's $2.
Yeah.
Record slaps. Record is so good. And there's some clunkers on it for sure, but like there's
Yeah.
like two aside that are like, oh, like, and there's no information on the internet because it was just some fucking random record
Yeah.
that, and there's no songwriters written on it that is like, the same guy that wrote like this hit, like had to have written this record,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Man, that's wild. That's super fun. We have a shop like that, Binks Records, here
Yeah.
in Orlando, and they've got a studio in the back, and then they've got coffee, beer and wine, and record store. And they kind of specialize in like rare jazz and really kind of less easy to find stuff. But then they do have that bargain bin that I'm constantly going through. And Park Ave CDs here in town, same thing. They got the
Yeah, I
one
was
or
about to
two
say
dollars. I'll
Park Ave
find
is
like
legendary.
yeah, like I found like Oliver Wood's solo record in the dollar bin. You'll just find, and you can always find the ones that are at every store, right? There's like various Credence's Cosmos Factory, in
Oh
almost
yeah,
every one of
there's a
those.
thousand Born to Runs.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, but I love it. I love it because, I don't think I have a Born to Run, actually. I probably have
Yeah,
more than one Cosmos Factory, but I don't, it's just so fun to go through those physical copies. It's such a cathartic thing to just be there among all that beautiful music and those beautiful packages.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's but to back to that Against Me record and Cosmos and like
yeah.
the best art is, and the thing that I loathe about streaming is design.
Mm,
Right, nothing beats holding up. Like I just got when I was in New York over the holidays, this store happened to have all the Justin Towns Earl record store days that I missed
mm,
here. And
mm.
I got them in like holding the new Yuma repress with Joshua Black Wilkins' photo in it and the liner notes and I think it's tan record or brown record, like the reverse board jacket printing where it's matte and flat and porous and the way the imagery sits on it and the scribbles that I can only imagine or I want to imagine are his handwriting and
Mm.
it just to hold that is fucking rad.
Yeah.
I got that replacements Tim box set,
Nice.
to hold that is fucking cool,
Yeah.
you know?
Man, the Southeastern box
Yeah,
set.
the Southeastern 10-year, really cool.
So cool, man. The demos, that particular disc, I'm like, this is what I mean, it turned out perfectly, of course. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I might enjoy this better than I
Um,
do the actual record.
Me and J Duckworth have conversations regularly about demos versus full lengths.
Mm,
And the demos, and I'm not a big editor once we get to the studio because I tend to think the first thing you do is the best thing.
mm,
Um, Especially with vocal melodies, and we'll do some changes, but not drastic changes. Um, that and even when we made records, like when we did Untitled, we learned the songs the night before. I think we did 2 evenings of like, all right, these are the songs, cool. Like, let's get the gist and we'll iron them out in the studio. That third take or fourth take when the song comes alive, like that's the best that song's ever gonna sound.
mm.
It's like legitimately why like I hate playing shows because I'm trying. It's like fucking chasing the
Interesting.
moment, you know.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um, and that's why in the last couple of years I tend to play whatever's in my notebook. Plus, I'm gonna arrogantly say the hits. You play the hits and you play what's in the notebook. You play what's next.
Well, and didn't you tell
Um,
me last time that a lot of it too, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of your live performance, you like it to be kind of a conversation. You like to tell
yeah,
stories, right?
absolutely. And you read the room, and again, the hits are there, right? I'm always going to play X, Y, and Z. I tend to always write the first two songs, and I kind of have the last two songs in my head, and those don't necessarily change often.
Mhm.
Um, like Cecilia's always the tail end, if not the last song, and for the last minute, like Better Worse has been the first song because it's a good and it's a different arrangement than the record, so it kind of rides into it. Um, and um, but yeah, it's the room is definitely the thing, um, and the conversation because you know, like I'm playing two shows in California and Reno, Nevada, and Nevada is a punk thing, so I know going in there I'm gonna play more aggressive stuff, harder stuff, stormier stuff, but the show in California at the brewery in Rancho Cordova at Claim Steak, like I'm probably not going to use a pick,
Mm.
and I'm just going to sit in this room with the 40 or 50 people that'll show up there and read the room, um, which is really funny because I said before, like I got to start going to the gym, like with the kilograms, like it's a whole different beast. There's going to be 6 people on stage. You can't shout out like, "Yeah, let's play this right now." You can, but like writing
Right.
writing a rock and roll set versus writing a folk set are two separate beasts.
Mm.
Especially like a higher energy. A lot of the new crop of songs is running,
Mm.
um, um, and which is fucking rad. Like I'm stoked, but
That's
it's
awesome.
like remembering like there's like goofy rules. Somebody told me a long time ago like you got to write up your keys, so like C D F, and then you bring it back down in your blocks, and you have to pay attention to the like, all right, you got 6 upbeat in a row, like you got to slow it down for the kids to catch their breath, like
Yeah.
there's a whole fucking science to it that I'm trying to remember.
Well, BJ was talking about not the live performance, but he kind of weaved it into the live performance about making records and thinking about them in the old way where they were all pressed to vinyl, and how you would start out with a song that has a lot more going on because you needed more space. on the physical
Yeah.
space on the record, and then you kind of slow it down a little bit, and then you pick it back up on the B side. And I guess I knew that intuitively, but I never thought about it as being because you were pressing it to the vinyl. And that makes sense from the performance perspective too. It seems like kind of a similar science or similar alchemy at least going on there.
Yeah, there's definitely, and even now we have, let me bring up my uh, digital dry erase board,
Oh, nice.
because we're all from afar recording. So instead of having a dry erase board in the studio, where the fuck are we? Here we are. We like, I'm going to use the word like, I know what the first three on the record is and the last two
Okay.
from what we're writing. It's like, this is the first song. Like, this is how this record's going to start. And this is how this is the last line people are going to hear on the record, right? It's uh, Joe wrote a beautiful song called Battles. Um, and that, in my head, that's how it's going to end, is the last line of that song.
Mm.
Um, you know,
Well, on the
and
E, can we get granular about that for 2 seconds?
yeah,
Like the
absolutely.
on the EP, and I had it all pulled up, and then my screen's not working and
You're
everything's
good. You're good.
wonky. But there's a lyric in I think it's the third track. It's near.
Who
I
am
think
I?
so. Huh? Yeah, I think it's in Who Am I?
Yeah.
About the pin drop on the grenade. What's
Another
the
pin
line?
drops from a hand grenade. Yeah.
And then that comes up later too, right?
Yeah. That comes, that's like the tag in the verses on that.
Okay.
Holy, that son of a bitch. Sorry. So I'm going to spiral out. So this morning I woke up and I went and smoked a cigarette, and this fucking raccoon like was tearing through my trash and looked at me and was like, fuck you, and put his fist up and tried to fight me. Right. And I got like an 80-pound pit bull in the house. Like, and Ruthie Peanut Butter, that's the dog's name, Ruthie Peanut Butter, was like, yo, are we going to fuck this guy up? So I go and grab my fucking boxing gloves, and this fucking raccoon already has his gloves on. And I'm sitting here, right? I'm sitting here, and I shoot him off. I gave him the old right, left, right? I don't know how to flip the camera. This motherfucker is sitting in that tree right there.
Taunting you.
This motherfucker. Sorry, it was like 40 minutes of trying to get this fucker, this guy to fucking, you know, take a walk,
Wait, when you say you put on your boxing gloves, you mean you literally put on boxing gloves and went to
Yeah,
battle with a raccoon?
like I went to fight a fucking raccoon because he was fucking with my shit. Like I got like dude knocked over the full garbage can. I got like an hour's worth of fucking trash, and I forgot to take out the trash this week. Uh, I'm gonna fucking go climb a tree after this. I'm afraid of heights. I don't even like to get on a step stool. Like, I'm gonna fuck this guy up.
I was gonna say you can't let him get away with this.
I'm gonna have a new hat today. Corey Traumatelli took my old one while we're on the road. Always wear the raccoon hat while you're driving. It's a thing.
Okay. Good to know.
Sorry. So another, I'm like talking to you, and I look over this fucking guy and it's broad daylight, so the raccoon's probably sick.
Yeah.
Uh,
That fucker.
and he's like dead eyeing me right now. I'm gonna wrestle this son of a bitch later.
Please don't get rabies.
I'm gonna put on my luchadora mask and take off my shirt and shout brother a whole lot. Amigo. Sorry.
Oh man. No, that's perfect. That's better than my meandering question. And I do want to kind of wrap it up and let you get on with your day. But anything else you mentioned a couple of things that you're excited about It's always, anytime I talk to you, I always have like a lot of homework because you get so excited about bands and introduce me to cool stuff. Anybody else you haven't mentioned or anything else? Like you go to the art museum a lot, anything that's got you fired up right now, art wise?
Uh, yes. Let me see if I can find him. Um, what's his name? There's this guy. He did a killer print. He's a black kid from Cincinnati. What's Liz? I pinged it to Liz. Um, and his art was chasing me for a little bit. I kept going to places and it was hanging. But there was a beautiful print in the Cincinnati Art Museum that it was like a regional African American artist exhibit. Where the fuck are you? Sorry, I'm scrolling. I found the Scooby Doo Nike Dunks I want to buy though.
Okay.
Not what I needed.
Right, right. Hey,
Um,
that's art.
it
That
is.
that has you fired up.
I feel bad. This guy is so good. He did a bunch of wallpaper style silkscreen prints, lithographs that were like wallpaper, but the centerpiece of each one was like HR from the Bad Brains and Joe
Oh, okay.
Strummer and punk icons. And then I went to another art gallery. Liz's kiddo was in a play. She actually just got accepted into the performing arts school here, which is huge.
Awesome.
Like stoked. Um, uh, and they had like a little gallery in this theater that she did a play at, and it was all of his work. Terrence. Sorry, I'm finding it. It's coming to me.
There you go.
His name is Terrence Hammonds, and if you are bored on the internet, I think it's beautiful. It's at TERENCEHAMMONDS.
Okay.
Beautiful collage work, beautiful print work. It's just fucking gorgeous. And he's a
Cool.
regional guy.
Nice.
Music wise, art wise, I just found my copy of Robert Frank's The Americans. I've been tearing through that again. In particular, there's a photo in it of a cowboy smoking a cigarette in New York City outside of Madison Square Garden. I believe it's called The Cowboy or The Roper. That's been living rent free in my head for a couple days. Music wise, the Montvales are phenomenal. I have been on a weird small faces kick,
Huh.
the Rod Stewart era.
Yeah.
I think the Wurlitzer electric piano on those records is just ridiculous.
I had a phase. I had that phase in my 20s, and I probably haven't listened to them since, other than here and there
Mm,
when the unavoidable
yeah,
songs.
the unavoidable songs, like, and that's really what I'm talking about. Those unavoidable songs are epic.
Yeah.
You know, I've been listening to a lot of it's on my repeat right now. Dolly Parton. Been listening to a lot of Dolly Parton.
Nice.
Um, the new Hot Water Music singles. Oh, this band called Skinhead. You know about this band called Skinhead?
No, I don't.
They're like a joke band, and I think it's like the guys from like Death Before Dishonor and maybe Hatebreed,
Oh, okay.
like prominent Boston hardcore bands making fun of the Boston hardcore Irish Catholic scene.
Okay.
And they put out a record. It's 13 minutes long. There's a tune on it called "No Sir, Not for Me," and like the verses are like, "Yo, motherfucker, you think you're tough, but when you get locked up, you ever write me? No, you just donate $5 to my bail fund GoFundMe." Like, or like, "Hey man, if I asked you to hang some guy off of a ledge, would you do it? No, you tell me that you're at your mother's for brunch. Like, fuck off." But the chorus is "No sir, not for me, you're not my friend. you're just some asshole that hangs around.
Mm.
And
Mm.
like, as a 35-year-old, like that recently removed himself from like the bar industry, like all these people I thought were my friends were just patrons, or
Mm.
I was a patron of theirs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that song kind of rings really heavy, but it's fucking killer. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Okay, I'll
Um,
check it out.
and there's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous, and it's just making fun of the fucking Boston hardcore scene. Um,
Nice.
the Dolly that's been on repeat is Dolly and Chet Atkins. Do I ever cross your mind?
Mm.
Generation X has been on a lot, and I know you know my loads for this, and I want to let y'all know that I'm healthy and doing really good. I've
You're
been
not gonna
listening to the
taste Dylan.
Bob.
There's no way that's about to
I've been
happen.
listening to the Bob Dylan like 1980, 81, 82 gospel shit,
Stop the presses. What?
like the leather clad Dylan gospel records.
Uh-huh.
But hear me out. So Kilograms is essentially a ska and reggae band.
Right.
Ska and reggae, American country music, and folk and punk all have essentially the same turnarounds chord wise. A lot of it's 1-4-5 with like a 4-5 or a 6-2-1 or whatever. So I'm listening to gospel, in particular the Dylan record, because it kind of slaps. Whoever plays organ on it is fucking off. And I'm also trying to learn how to play organ better and understand like a Hammond with drawbars.
Oh, nice.
And gospel turnarounds are different
Mm.
than they're similar, but like the organ will stay on one note, the guitar will go and play 3 chords, and the bass will play 6. And it's the handshake of
Mm.
like A, B, C, D. And the drums will turn around in a finger snap for 2 bars and go like double time, half time, triple time, like a hardcore band would. But the patterns are very similar to reggae or like ska punk.
Mm.
So I've been
Interesting.
tearing through gospel records um, to find different chords that will inspire.
Mm.
And somehow the Dylan record got thrown on my thing, and like, you know, like again, I'm okay, I swear. But yo, pressing on fucking what's the name of the fucking record? Uh Saved is off the chain. Like pressing on, Are You Ready? Satisfied Mind, epic. And there's no live version of that on the bootleg series. That's also really good.
I'm looking forward to the inevitable here, which is I'm gonna be seeing your Instagram story in a couple weeks, and it's gonna be like a song from Infidels, and then a song from some other mid-period record, and then it's gonna be Nashville
Yeah,
Skyline, and next thing you know, you're like the biggest. You're gonna do what I did with the replacements. I got a feeling this is gonna happen.
yeah, no, I highly doubt that. I'm going to be over this in 2 weeks when I move on to the next thing that'll teach me how to play music better. Um, um, um,
Uh,
you know, and the other thing too about gospel and like reggae music, traditional reggae music, like the Ras Tafari stuff is essentially just traditional Jewish music.
hmm.
It's 2 chords, 3 chords max. There's like a chanting and a fucking vocal thing that's very similar. Um, you know, they're all singing about like Israel,
Hmm.
like the person. Like it's just fucking weird. But here nor there. Um, but yeah, Dylan. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's in my head right now. And it's all
So,
because of that We Are the World documentary. Did you see that shit?
no, I didn't. I
It's
heard
on
about it, but I haven't
Netflix.
seen it.
Dude, all you need to watch is like the last 15 minutes.
Okay.
And it's about Dylan. You know, there's the meme of Dylan like,
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
fuck am
yeah.
I doing?
Yeah.
Dylan was recording by himself and just an engineer for years. That was the first time he sang in a room with people ever.
Oh shit.
And like the last 10 minutes, he's going to do his lead at the end, right? Right? The thing, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're watching Dylan struggle. Granted, it's like 4 or 5 in the morning, and Dylan can't do it. He's like, I don't know what you want me to fucking do. And they bring in Stevie Wonder, who's like it's like known that Stevie Wonder is like a great vocal impersonator. And Dylan's like, so what the fuck do I do? And Stevie sits at the piano. He's like, bring in Stevie. And Stevie sings it, making fun of Dylan in the Dylan voice at the piano. And Dylan goes from like, I'm defeated to like, and this is what, 84? Like, so it's super leather clad Dylan, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And he walks over to the mic after laughing and hugging Stevie, like, oh yeah, I'm Bob Dylan. That's what I do. And rips it first take, and it's like, Dylan, you know? But it was a
that's
cool
great.
insight into that whole meme. Like the whole thing that I got out of the documentary was this meme, and that
Yeah.
Lionel Richie like worked really hard on something.
Oh, that's great. I think I'm going to watch that, even though you just gave me all the good nuggets. That sounds great.
That's it. That's the only really good. Like you watch like Cyndi Lauper, like wow,
Yeah.
cool, and like you watch Huey do it off the cuff, like fucking Huey Lewis is a fucking vocal genius. You ever listen to sports? It's the only thing it's the only sports in my life on Sundays is Huey Lewis and the News. You know? Yeah, I guess that's all that's inspiring me. I got a book on Brian Wilson that I haven't read that I have to crack open. I found my copy of the Motorcycle Diaries. I figure I'll read again. I don't think I've read that in 20 years.
Yeah, same. I've got a copy on my shelf right here, right next to me.
Yeah, it's like it's time to revisit it.
Yeah.
You know, that's my life. What about you? What do you listen to? It's more important. Tell me.
The Jonathan Payton record that's coming out that Sadler Vaden produced.
Okay.
It doesn't come out till Friday, I think, this Friday. But it's just been on and I just had him on the show earlier this week or last week. Time is scrambled right now for me. It was last
Story of my
week.
life.
Yeah, dude. That record is wonderful, and I've really been digging it. I mentioned Indigo D'Souza earlier. I've been listening to all of that catalog, like over and over and over again. And because there's just like a lot to it, and just sort of like I'm new to it, so it's not like when I listen to this Jonathan Payton record, I'm like, oh, it's a Sadler Vaden record. It's with a bunch of great songs on it, you know, like it's a Sadler Vaden produced Americana record with a bunch of great songs on it, and he's got a beautiful voice, and his wife contributes quite a bit to it, and there's just great musicians all over it. Those Joe Pug singles, been listening to those quite a bit.
I saw him a couple nights ago, and it was epic.
Yeah. We recorded for the second time. This time I got to talk to him in person about a month ago, and he couldn't have been more delightful. And then his performance, dude, he's just a master at it. I mean, he's just so damn good. So I'm really digging those singles. So those are kind of the things. And then just whatever, Israel Nash, like I mentioned, whatever's been my my tidal morning stuff that's been popping up. My morning algorithm stuff. It's been a lot of those bands that I just mentioned.
Yeah, my release radar on the Spotify hasn't dropped me anything that I'm like, holy shit, in a minute.
Yeah.
But it's definitely some cool stuff out there.
For sure. Buddy, this is always good medicine. Thank you.
Always. I love you.
I love you too, man. I appreciate you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day of creating and consuming art.
I hope so too. I think I have to do the dishes first, though.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
All right,
my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sammy Kay, y'all. Thank you so much, Sammy. Thank all of you for listening. thekilograms.bandcamp.com for the Kilograms. They've got some great merch over there with designs. My good friend of the show, Joe Mayako. Y'all, I am so excited for my copy of that EP to come in, as well as that shirt designed by Joe. I like a good baseball tee. I love a good baseball team. I have an Avett Brothers one from years ago. I've got a Matt Woods one, and now I'm going to have a Kilograms one, which I'm excited about. Follow Sammy on social media. If you can swing it, y'all, Sammy could use some help with some much-needed surgery that I think he just had. There's a link available on his Instagram. Every little bit helps. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I contributed what I could as well. Also, guys, vote. Okay, I understand the system's fucked, but it's bullshit that anyone should have to have a GoFundMe for medical care. Rant over. The song you are hearing in this episode for now. The song you're hearing in this episode is Who Am I to Say, which Sammy and I talked about from the Kilograms debut EP, which is available everywhere now. I am looking forward to my copy, like I said. That should be arriving any day now. MarinadePodcast.com for all things The Marinade. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Spoutable, Twitter, Blue Sky. We're on all the things, y'all, except Facebook. Thank you to everybody who's been following us over on Instagram. I've been a little bit more active over there. I took kind of a break, which was healthy. And then when I came back, I was just, I don't know, I've been sharing songs and I just saw all kinds of fun, creative inspiration. I felt very inspired lately. I've had a lot of great things going on in my life. So follow us over there. And thank you to everybody who has recently come to the show. Telling a friend about the show makes a huge difference. Those are all free ways to give us a subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app. All free ways to support the Marinade. Go do that right now while you're listening, please. It makes a big difference for us and costs so little of your time and energy. If you really like what we're doing and can swing it, please consider joining our Patreon community. Y'all, for $2 a month, you can get access to Patreon exclusive content like our show, Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life and provide a window into the process of making the Marinade. One of the best days of the month is recording What We're Getting Down On with my dear friend, the brilliant and hilarious Peter Haroldson. And that's about the art that has us fired up at the moment. You can try a free trial at Patreon. Just try it, no pressure, 7 days. Set a reminder on your phone in case you want to cancel and keep going if you dig it. Thank you to everybody who supports us over there. If you want to support the show financially, but you don't want to commit to a monthly subscription, I totally get that. You can Venmo or PayPal us. It's just at the Marinade. And all the money goes right back into the making of the show. But above all, we're just grateful that you listen and support us. Until next time, go out and create something. Cheers, y'all.